We remember the conquerors: Alexander, Caesar, Napoleon. Their names are carved into continents. But behind every empire that ever bestrode the world, there was a second, hidden pantheon. Not of kings, but of inventors. And their temples weren't palaces, but workshops, forges, and dusty scriptoriums. Their weapons weren't swords, but ideas made manifest. This is not a story of battles. It is the story of the dark, ingenious minds who made those battles possible. The forgotten architects of victory and annihilation. In the 5th century BC, the destiny of the Western world hung on a 40-ton wooden shell powered by 170 men. The Athenian Trireme. It wasn't just a ship, it was the ancient world's equivalent of a stealth fighter. Its revolutionary design wasn't about beauty, but about physics as a weapon. The genius was in the hypozomata, a massive, tensioned cable running from bow to stern under the deck. Think of it as the ship's spine. Before battle, sailors would twist this cable with levers, putting the entire hull under immense tensile stress. This preloading made the ship rigid. When it rammed an enemy vessel at 10 knots, it didn't just punch a hole. It transferred the kinetic energy through its entire, unyielding structure, shattering the target's hull while remaining intact itself. The inventor? We don't know his name. He was likely a shipwright in a dusty Piraeus yard. But his understanding of tension and torque gave Athens a naval empire. He turned a principle of engineering into the engine of thalassocracy. Victory didn't go to the bravest, but to those who best understood applied force. Centuries later, in the siege-laden world of the Hellenistic age, a problem persisted. A human archer was limited by the strength of his own arm. The answer emerged from Syracuse, the gastrophetes, or belly bow. It was brutally simple. A composite bow was mounted horizontally on a stock. The archer placed it against his stomach, used his body weight to push a slider back, cocking the bow with a ratchet, mechanically storing far more energy than a human could draw. Then, he released a heavy bolt with enough force to pierce armor at 100 yards. This was the seed. From it grew the monstrous ballistae and catapults of Rome. The principle was the same: replace muscle with mechanics. Replace the heroic, sweating soldier with a calibrated machine of wood, sinew, and iron. War was no longer a contest of strength, but of leverage. The inventor, Ctesibius, or his followers, didn't just build a weapon. They began the process of dehumanizing force, turning it into a reproducible, industrial product. But what happens when an invention is so potent its secret must become a state religion? Enter Greek fire, the Byzantine Empire's ultimate force multiplier. It wasn't just napalm. It was a psychochemical nightmare. It stuck to flesh and wood. It burned on water. Water often made it worse. It was expelled from pressurized bronze siphons on ships, like the breath of a dragon. For 700 years, it held the Arab fleets at bay, saving Constantinople time and again. And its recipe died with the empire. It was the world's first weapon of mass destruction whose primary power was mystery. The Byzantines protected its secret with religious fervor. Only one family, only certain chemists, were allowed to know. The weapon was as much about the terror of the unknown as it was about the fire itself. This marked a new frontier, where the power of an invention lay not in its use, but in the paranoid, absolute control of its knowledge. And then, a different kind of weapon. Not one that broke bodies, but one that broke monopolies. Gutenberg's printing press. Before 1450, knowledge was a fortress. Books were handwritten by monks. Rare, expensive, controlled by the church and the crown. The press turned knowledge into a flood. Manuals for gunpowder recipes, treatises on metallurgy, diagrams of fortifications. These could now be copied not a dozen times, but 1,000, and spread across borders. It created the democratization of destruction. Now, a minor German prince could access the same siegecraft manuals as the Holy Roman Emperor. The press didn't just spread ideas. It leveled the playing field of power by weaponizing information itself. The most revolutionary war technology was, ultimately, a machine for making copies. These forgotten inventors, the shipwright, the artilleryman, the alchemist, the printer, they were not warriors. They were appliers of principle. They looked at a problem: how to sink a ship, breach a wall, terrorize a fleet, spread an idea, and they reached not for a sharper sword, but for a law of physics, a chemical reaction, a mechanical advantage. They understood that war is not ultimately about courage. It is, and always has been, a competition in applied intelligence. The side that better harnesses physics, chemistry, and information will win, regardless of who has the purer cause or the harder muscle. We stand today on the shoulders of these ghosts. Our world is built by their descendants, the coders, the engineers, the material scientists. They are the new hidden pantheon, shaping our destiny from server farms and laboratories. The final lesson is this: pay attention not just to the generals making speeches, but to the quiet minds making tools. For in their workshops, the future of conflict, and perhaps of peace, is being drafted in blueprint, line by line, long before the first shot is ever fired.